So I'm going to start just kind of low proof. And
why don't you start with the...
I'm actually starting with this guy.
The American whiskey, very good. So I had the old bottle of this. I actually bought it at an auction site once from the UK.
Really?
Yes, and I have a video online about it and so on. But yes, that was one of the things where I was like, hey! Because we don't see very many bottles all over in Europe. And all my friends are Scotch dummies.
Scott.
I know Scott and Mark fairly well as well. We've done a live stream together and I've sent them bottles and we've done things together, and it's just like, I love you, yeah. So
they're amazing, and it's been a really fun relationship the last few years with them.
Yeah.
So starting out with Esoteric. So this actually is a product coming out this weekend.
I was going to say I have never seen this.
So this is Esoteric it's a blend of both corn whiskey and bourbon. But this is where a lot of our experimentals ended up getting used. So, so what we do is so the very first time we blended some of our corn whiskeys, the raw profile. Some of our had some of the weeded bourbon. It had green Oaxacan in it. All sorts of fun stuff. We blended it together. Half of it got bottled. The other half went back in barrel and continued aging. So it's kind of like a bastardized Solera, because every time we do it, we pull it out of barrel, blend new stuff in. Half of it gets bottled, gets put back in barrel.
And do you use exactly the same barrels again, or do you kind of just vat everything and put them in?
It gets vatted. Okay. So sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more. It just depends on what we're tasting, what we think is appropriate for it. So this year, obviously, as I said, it's got caramel malted wheat, it's got green Oaxacan in it, it's got purple prairie barley in it. This year we actually added in some of the very first blue corn that we ever did, which is really fun. So that's Esoteric for 2022.
Okay, very nice.
I thought she was going to be drinking with you.
Yeah, she definitely can be.
Yeah, of course
I'm going to get slapped if I don't include her.
Yeah, don't forget Mom.
Exactly.
It's kind of funny. We also look at this. There's a lot of talk in our industry about.
So kind, maybe put the microphone closer to your face. No, just you can. Use my microphone now. Oh. Just hold it close to your voice. That's enough. Yeah.
There's a lot of talk about barrel shortages and different things, and so it's always good to have an idea of, if we can't get barrels, what can we do? Yeah. So this is kind of an experiment also of what the possibilities are if when you're combining the used barrels and the new barrels. So.
And let's be honest too, that for us, I like the ability to use used casks.
Yes.
It really does help us manage tannin at a much different level than you can with new barrels.
I like used barrels.
Yes, especially as a storage for longer aging possibilities as well.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's why you'll notice the age statements. The youngest whiskeys in here are actually going to be older than most of our standard line products that we do.
Now, I could be very evil and say these are the not perfect experiments. You just kind of went, okay, put them together. Or you could actually say in a different way, we're experimenting further with the different things we have, and you're almost a Waterford experiment, and you're actually putting the different cuvées together.
What's interesting is that we choose what goes in here before we choose we release the other stuff. So this actually gets put together before we do any single barrel crazy experiments out there. Too.
But the reality is we were very heavy on blending. And we blend to a profile for our harbingers and our Promethean. And so not every barrel is going. It's not that it's a lesser barrel. It just means that its profile is a little bit different than what we want to put in those other whiskeys. A lot of times they'll end up as single barrels. Those outliers,
the weirder
right?
children, yes.
Yeah.
The outliers.
Outliers, I like that, yes. Outliers, weirder children, a little bit. And the flavor profile of the Harbinger, you've been fairly good with keeping the, I'm going to say, flavor drift.
Yes, so when you look at the Harbinger releases, so all the releases that are B, C, and D are going to be the standard traditional Harbinger barrel profile. Every year we'll do a little bit of fun experimenting with and play around. It's a little bit more fun. So when you look at, like on that one, I think that's a C, I think.
You can find it quicker than I can.
On the back side. It's on the back, I have the edition. So the edition
21C.
Yeah, so if you see A on it, it means it's an experimental blend for us on that year.
Very good.
So that's for the harbingers in particular. That we
we don't go crazy wild with it. We just
no, it's not super far off, but
it's
we try to push the bounds a little bit.
Yeah.
Now this is a little bit creamy. There's more creaminess in here than I expected. Well done.
And that's that blue corn coming in.
Could be. Yeah. Now, what is a bottle of this retail here in Texas?
Anywhere between $40 and $45.
Very good.
We try to be really as reasonable as we possibly can with pricing, because it has gotten out of hand of late, and I don't know, it just rubs me the wrong way. So
Robert always says he's got to be able to afford his own whiskey, and he's not making enough to spend those hundreds of dollars.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Very, very good. So now this one thing that's very important for Europe always is the 36 months, 3 years of age. Mm-hmm. Always has to be that, otherwise it's called a spirit. Mm-hmm. So would there maybe a possibility to maybe order a pallet of American whiskey here, the esoteric for 2023?
Yeah. Yeah, that would be something that would potentially be on the table for sure.
That's good. At the moment, we have a lot of product in Germany and also in the UK, and the economic crisis at the moment just starting to hit a lot of people, and the exchange rate is at the moment totally against us. We've lost 12% of value since the beginning of the year.
Against the dollar?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. That's hit us harder than anything else that's hit at the moment.
Oh. And transportation.
Yeah, well, okay. We according to the information we have now, it's basically peaked. Mm-hmm. We used to be able to have 2 pallets, 800 euros. It's now 3,800 euros for those same 2 pallets to get them over there. And we hope that will be actually. We had a quote for 1.8, and it's like, okay, I'll wait till the end of the week. We waited till the end of the week. Oh, it's now 2.8. What? From 1.8 to 2.8 within days. I'm sorry. No, it's now 2.8. Okay, I'll be fine. We had other quotes. It was 3.5. It was just like, okay, good. The 2.8 was better than, but then it cost us. Oh, let's shop around a little bit. It cost us 1,000 euros to get those 2 pallets over. But yes, according to our inside sources, however, we've hit. It's not going to get any. That's it. The people just say, "I'm sorry, I'm not shipping anymore." It's just that's
stop.
Yeah, exactly, and that's. I flew out this morning and I flew over Rotterdam. Mm-hmm. 80 ships, container ships outside just waiting. Just like same thing you have Long Beach, California. Same thing's happening also in the North Sea. Which I thought we were over that. Yeah. But they were still just parked and anchored outside.
Our bottling line got stuck in that coming over, and there were 300 and some ships. Yeah. And then even when it got into dock, the trucks weren't there, and the rail wasn't there, so the whole infrastructure was.
Supply chain at the moment is just terrible. Have you ever heard of J.J. Corey from Ireland? Mm-hmm. Oh. Louise, I was at Louise's place just 2 weeks ago, and she said, Jason, this week our problem is the glue for the labels. She has the capsule, she has the labels, she finally has a glass. I don't have any glue. There's no glue to be bought in all of Ireland, she said. Hello? Just the glue for the labels.
Ours comes sticky already.
Yeah, no, she has one of these bottling lines, and they put the glue in the back of the labels, the adhesive. And it was
I'm glad I don't have that step.
Exactly.
One less problem.
We have to have some type of bottle as well. I would self-adhesive labels is what I always buy. Yeah.
We can get some stamps and just help out.
Sharpie.
Yeah. So very interesting. Thank you.
All right, so now I think we can jump to the 115 if you like.
Mm-hmm. So this is water?
That is water.
Very good. So I can actually rinse my glass out briefly.
Oh, yeah. And as we get up to the much higher proof whiskeys, if you do have a water dropper too if you want to use them.
Yes, of course. So this is a little bit of water, right? Mm-hmm. All right, good. Yeah. Okay. First of all, we drink it like God intended, and then we can dilute it if we want.
Then we play around.
Yes, I love playing around with water, but at the beginning, the first one was,
Just test the water.
Yes.
All right, so I think that is the next guy on the list here.
Good.
So this is Harbinger 15. This is one of the standard releases.
Mm-hmm. Now you change your bottle design. That's on purpose because of the bottle shortage.
Bottle shortage. This
a
actually
little bit before. Just,
Yeah.
When because last time we tried to order the flat bottles, it showed up 9 months late from China, and it was just.
And then it was they wouldn't send a single container; they wanted 2 containers, and it was just
For a small
you
distillery,
can't keep we can't keep the glass that long. It's not good to do that. So.
You need a little bit as well. So your corks, you intentionally have the artificial cork.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Very, very nice. I like.
We originally, we also had a vodka and a gin, and the reason why we went with the artificial is because we didn't want the tinting of the vodka.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're not getting more than one kind, let me tell you.
All right, so 32 months, and the color is fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So this is going to be a blend of whiskey from 32 months all the way up to about 5 years old.
Wow. Okay.
So 32 months would cause you problems, right? Because
Yes,
you said it has to be 36.
It has to be 36, yes. It would. For example, Bacones at the moment, they use Lucy imports in Amsterdam, and their whiskey was not all 36 months, and so it's now called Bacones Spirit, Texas Spirit. It's not whiskey. And that some people have stopped buying it. Many people don't notice. They just have Balcones so big and everything else so small that
it's Balcones.
Exactly. Oh, it's a Balcones rye. It's Balcones single malt. It's Balcones whatever. And then the word spirit is just ignored. And they worked around that. So Now, what's special about this otherwise? Your mash bill?
So this is going to have all 4 of our core mash bills in it.
Yes.
So it's going to lean most heavily on our bloody butcher corn mash bill and our purple corn mash bill.
Right.
We'll have a small amount of the low rye mash bill and a little bit of the flint corn.
Okay.
But it's going to be bloody butcher corn is probably going to be the biggest one out of it.
So now for me, I know that's like a seasoning grain. We do not put 80% of that.
So with the bloody butcher corn, it's typically what we're doing right now, right around 30 to 35%.
Which is much more than I thought. I was going for 5 to 12%.
Well, with the Floriani is going to be 5%, cubic corn is going to be closer to 10%, and the low rye is 5% as well. So yeah, most of the grains are going to be 5 to 10%. Bloody butcher corn is one that we'll do more of.
We like to talk about, we're from Texas, we like to talk about our steaks, right?
Yeah, of course.
And so we look at the steaks, and then you have your seasonings. And if you put on way too much salt or way too much pepper, it muddles the flavor of the whole thing. So by adding smaller amounts, we're trying to add the finesse and the different flavors and the layerings with where they can balance each other.
I shouldn't mention garlic because she just wants it covered in garlic.
Very good. Now, what we have not mentioned here yet was your history. Basically, was it you came from the cognac and Armagnac, or who was it that actually had the original origins with that?
The city of Denison.
So,
okay. With the Ironroot, of course. Now, tell the story, please.
Yeah. So I guess the origin story for us is that when we were starting out to do distilling, Jonathan and I were going around all around the United States, and Marcia, you and I were going to some places by ourselves too, and just visiting different distilleries, especially distilleries that we liked what they were doing. There was something unique or different about it, and ultimately we fell in with Nancy Fraley and Hubert Germain-Robin. And there was just something about the kind of the French methodology and the thoughtfulness of the why they do these things. It just really kind of stuck with us, and so we started adopting and all right, this is how we want to approach whiskey making for our purposes. And so Hubert was a 10th generation cognac distiller, sold his property in France, moved out to California because he wanted to distill different types of grapes, and obviously cognac is very regimented, what you can and cannot distill. So he imparted a lot of that kind of philosophy onto us, him and Nancy. And so ultimately we knew we were coming back to Texas. And so he was very adamant that we focus on terroir and really focus on that concept, which, again, is a super debatable thing when it comes to spirits. There's a lot of discussion back and forth. But, I mean, I can honestly say from my experience, distilling corns from different places, just different soils, you do get very different results. And then playing around with the heirloom corns, the older varietals of corn, which is more also what we've really focused a lot on. It really makes a huge difference for us. And we do focus on local. It's 95% of the grain we grow comes within 60 miles of the distillery. But why we ended up in Denison is the story behind it. So Denison is actually sister cities with Cognac. Because back in the late 1800s, a gentleman who lived here, his name was T.V. Munson, who was a viticulturist. He was trying to figure out how to grow the European grapes in the United States so that we can make wine, because the European grapes are much better for making wine than the grapes that are native to the United States. But the European grapes didn't have any disease resistance to the bugs and the fungus and everything else that we have here in the U.S. But specifically, there's a little tiny aphid called phylloxera that causes European grapes massive issues. It loves their grape roots. And so he devised a way to graft the European grapes on top of American grapefruit stock, specifically Texas grapefruits. And those are really, really suitable for French grapes. They grow in very similar pH soils. And when phylloxera was accidentally transferred over to France and ended up wiping out between 70 to 80% of the French grapes, the French were able to come to the Smithsonian here in the U.S. and ultimately found T.V. Munson, and he was able to get them these grape roots so they could start replanting all their vineyards. So for that reason, Denison became sister cities with Cognac, and T.V. Munson was named to the French Legion of Honor.
Yeah. And that's where those Ironroots in Texas.
Ironroots, exactly. Yeah. And that's the reason why also that single malt Scotch became a big thing, because Cognac wasn't there for 10, 20 years.
Yeah. If you can't drink it, you're going to find something else to replace it.
Very quickly, yeah. Excellent. Okay.
All right. Mm-hmm. So, next up,
that wood influence is so
nice.
I love that. Yeah. Other people might think a little bit towards the but
we're gonna test that theory with
sure.
We had it. We do put it out at a 90, but on our whiskeys we don't proof down our 115 to create a 90 proof. We actually do separate blends. Because when we look at 90 proof, just exactly what you said, people who drink lower proof whiskey tend to like whiskeys that showcase the fruits. So when we're looking for the blends, if it's got, for this one specifically, if it's got a little bit of that orange blossom, if it's got a little bit of that maple, and not as much of maybe I like some of the roasted nuts on the back, like the roasted pecans and a little bit of that smoke with it. And so we look at specifically different, as we're looking at those barrels, which ones will fit.
So next, I'm going to pour you a whiskey that comes out this weekend. And so
2 whiskeys come out this weekend.
2 whiskeys.
Yeah, okay, very good.
It's the summer release. So we're going to jump in proof. We're going to 125 here. This is an older expression of Ironroot. Okay. So this is what we call the tri-barrel. We do a couple releases a year. This is going to be whiskeys 5, 6, and 7-year-old. So the oak is going to be far more present on these guys, but this one really is blended for fruit. So it's oak and fruit on this one.
No,
in
the price.
Winter,
the price point for this is $75.
Almost too cheap. Sorry. I'm actually serious here for that.
He might even be able to find you.
I would love to take one home. I have my credit card with me.
The interesting thing is this is called the solstice. The solstice happens twice a year. Right. So we have, it's first day of summer, right? And so we have the summer solstice. The flavors on this tend to be a little bit lighter and showcase a little more fruit. Yep. When we go to the winter solstice, it goes to really those darker, deeper flavors, and you like that one too.
And today is January, June 21st.
There we go, see? And What do we say? Prost?
Okay, in German it would be Prost, exactly. All right, very, very good. But we say cheers because it's Texas.
Cheers.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner. That's good.
That's good enough.
I'm sorry, that's
We are so siblings.
that's good stuff here. Wow. Good job.
A good balance on the fruit.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't, the oakiness of it does not
Does not override any or power anything, no.
And that's where, again, they're talking the French maturation techniques and putting the water in barrel are so important for managing that tannin. Where if we just let them, there's some barrels we will just let them go, and so they'll be 140 proof, big, pure oak, but those barrels are, oh gosh, yeah.
We've released hazmat a couple of times.
The whiskey geeks love it. Come on.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. I think we do have hazmat around here, don't we?
You've got a corn whiskey with hazmat.
Okay, yeah. And maybe your light whiskey will be it as well. Who knows?
Hey, you never know.
I hope it went in the barrel a little bit higher as well.
Yeah, I think it went in at 125. I think.
It's not high.
Well,
for you, it's high.
No.
Light whiskey can go in the barrel even higher.
It can.
Yeah.
I've seen people do 140.
I think it's actually, isn't it 160 the max? It comes off the still at 160.
You
can take it off the still at 160.
Yeah, but
light
you
can go up to
190.
180,
189, whatever. Yeah, exactly. So light is a little bit.
That's almost vodka, no.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was supposed to be for the vodka drinkers back then, so they made it especially for them. So
surprising that vodka drinkers don't want to drink whiskey.
yeah. So,
you should drink, we could do our whiskey. We do non-chill filtered, vodka. We do, and so it's, we call the whiskey makers vodka.
No, we use malted. We use caramel malts and stuff in it too. It's really fun.
That's really, I'm sure it is.
But also, not typical vodka at all.
Yeah, I think I'll have to take home a bottle of that.
No.
That's going to be my own private stash, if at all possible.
Oh yeah, no, I got you.
That is because.
Well, it's officially on Saturday. That's my problem. That might be your problem.
So,
all right,
that guy right there.
So on Saturday I'm going to be at the Reservoir Distillery in Richmond, Virginia.
Wow.
My mom, I'm from Richmond, Midlothian, but yeah. And we're going to visit them. And Dave, what is his last name? Do you know Dave from Reservoir?
Oh.
Cutterin, something like that. C-U-T. Dave, it's for me, Dave. He was actually,
his last name is.
Yeah. He started also now. I asked him what would be the one thing you do differently now. He said, I would have started making my blended whiskey with MGP juice much earlier. Yeah, I mean, he says it's just his stuff is a little bit more expensive. It's pot still as well, and so. His wheat, his corn, then his rye, but then his Hunter and Scott Heistess. His Heistess German is the name there. And he says, I would have started so much earlier. Now you've started as well with your Saints Alley there.
You know, I have a philosophy on that. You know, when we were starting, people were just doing vodka, gin, and moonshine.
Right.
And then later they got on. My philosophy on that is that sometimes you have to be careful if you start with a sourced product, whether it's MGP or somebody else. Because once I've created my brand with a flavor profile, and you're going to recognize it as my product, and it is a blend of somebody else's product, when mine comes online, are you as a consumer confused? And then pretty soon, I liked what you did before, I don't like you do. And so without, a good whiskey has a house style.
Yes.
It's not mistaken. And
philosophy
so
is to piss them off at the very beginning, and then you're fine.
Yeah. No, but you're doing exactly correctly, in my opinion, as well. Teeling did it, for example, incorrectly. They've now switched from the Cooley juice now to their own juice made in Dublin. It tastes.
It's not
very
the
different.
same.
It tastes. I had for the bottle. This stuff is terrible. What did they do? So I called them up and talked to them. Hey, what went on? Well, you just tasted our real juice. I was like, oh shit.
So I think that is something as you start out you must.
But you have the different brands. You have Ironroot and you have Saint's Alley.
We're
That's
separated.
And you could start off with a source product, distribution and so on, but do not use your name you're going to use later on.
Right.
And
and that's a slippery slope because you're developing them.
Wonderful example.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I didn't even realize they were the same, and I import brand new rigs now. Yeah, and it's just like, that was before we didn't have OKI.
You know,
the guy, one of the owners of OKI, is now living in McKinney.
Yeah, exactly. They sold the brand totally now. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The guy that sold the George Remus brand MGP now owns OKI.
Okay.
We had a taste with our friend Chris Jarvino, who does the Saint's Alley with us.
He knows who he is.
Okay, and but he introduced us to an OKI, and it is, what was it, Rob?
It's called. It was a bottle that was named Ricky Bobby, but it's.
Oh my gosh!
From Talladega
it is the most phenomenal taste of whiskey. And it's always one of our favorites. So when you say OKI, I keep thinking, ooh man, but there's not too many Ricky Bobbies out there, I guess.
So now this is Apotheosis. So Apotheosis is the pure Ironroot finished line. So this is going to be the more intense finishes than compared to what we do with Saint's Alley. So this was a 3-year-old Bloody Butcher Corn bourbon that was then aged in this one is an Armagnac release. So this is aged in Armagnac cask for 2.5 years. So it's a 5.5-year-old, 2.5 years, and finishing 3 years in its primary cask.
Now, tell me briefly about the Armagnac casks. I've had some excellent Armagnacs, and I've had some that were just like, nah.
I can tell you more about it because I import the barrels.
Yes, please do.
And we've had some we liked more than others. And the reason is that sometimes when you're importing, you're not getting the age on the Armagnac. And so you have to, if you get an Armagnac and you think, I've got one that's held 8-year-olds or younger whiskeys, remember that that's very immature. And so you're not getting, you're getting the younger woods and the younger flavors from the woods. When you get the ones that have had 25-year-old Armagnac, the Armagnacs have been sitting for so long and they've gone so deep into that wood and they've put all that richness of flavor. So if your Armagnac didn't have the tools in order to create those wonderful flavors because it was too young, you are not going to be able to get the finish off it either.
But I think he was talking about he's had some Armagnac proper that he's loved and some that he hasn't loved, and why was that?
And the same thing with the whiskey. Sometimes it actually, there's an Irish whiskey from Germany that was heavenly. It was divine. It was great. And then something else, it was Kegadachi 13 now, and these Bas Armagnac cask release, and it's just like, you ruined the 13-year-old. I don't even do that, please. The finish is much worse and it costs 25 euros more.
Probably different distillers.
And a lot of it is cask type.
Exactly.
The thing for us that we're very particular about, thank God,
this was good. This is good.
And thank God my mom's very particular, but it's only black oak that we import for it. Which creates a very different flavor profile. It's much darker and heavier.
What's the Latin word for black oak?
Oh,
is there Latin?
So you'll hear it. You hear it in France. They'll call it Gascon oak.
Okay, Gascon oak. Yeah.
As well, and it's the only black oak I've heard of being used for barrel making for spirit. Because we asked some of the American barrel makers to use some black oak, and it won't seal. Won't do it. But because of the old growth style of the oak in France, much tighter rings, it holds much better. But it creates such unique spirit, and I think that's one of the big things. Then looking at grape varietal also is a huge. We are very partial to Baco, but I mean a lot's done with Uni Blanc, which is good. It's a very good grape, but Marcia's a Baco fiend, so.
We do like Armagnac.
You also like Full Blanche too, But yeah, no, so that's. I mean, it just there's a lot of different factors that go into that. Which what blew my mind when we were over there, working and talking with some of their there is no heads cut. They just go.
When we were in Armagnac, we had the most fun because we got to go to the La Flamme dinners. And so, you know, they don't have distilleries. It's a traveling distillery. And I mean, it's like
a trailer.
Trailer. But we're
sometimes
talking,
with the tractor and the real tractor with it just pulls
it's a little more like a wagon train than which we would think of a fancy trailer. And they go and when they're distilling, it's like the celebration of the end of their season because a lot of their grape production goes to good wines. Right. And so when they're doing the Armagnacs, the community comes together. They had phenomenal dinner, and it was like duck everywhere you could. I mean, every different way you could eat it.
I've got movies of her dancing too. So.
Oh, good. On the table or not?
No. but maybe with the flames, you know. And it was one of the most enjoyable, fun times we've had over there.
Never been to that region of France yet.
It's a lot of fun.
I have to go one day.
They just really let their hair down
so
and have a
chill.
good time, and
you don't think that generally about the French, but they're
food and celebration just goes together.
Just relaxed.
I mean, you could never have that in the U.S. The OSHA would shut us down so fast. But it was one of the most enjoyable evenings in France that we went.
I'm sure.
And we were the funny thing is that Rob was an Armagnac drinker. Well, we were. Long before we had wine cellars,
or I was drinking malt,
and the people that we would go would come back from Europe with wines and things, and pretty soon they'd say, "Come back in the back room and let me taste this," and it would be bottles of Armagnac, and then pretty soon it was then we would buy the bottles of Armagnac from them. And I think for Rob's 21st birthday, he got a bottle of Armagnac. And I remember calling him up, and I said, "Rob, what are you doing?" And his roommate's name was Justin. He says, "Well, Justin and I are sitting here watching the presidential debates and drinking Armagnac." I'm like, "You're in college?"
Are you 65 years of age or what? Yeah.
Apparently.
So Rob has always had that old soul.
You were the lawyer,
and love
weren't you?
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Lawyer is a very strong term.
Okay.
I have a law degree.
Yes. Okay.
He didn't want to be a lawyer, so he's a distiller. But he was an undergraduate at that time. He's still at Austin College right over here.
Hadn't even gone to law school yet.
No, but he's always been very, very drawn to this cognacs and the Armagnacs, the brandies, and here we are, right now.
Very good.
So
your Saints Alley.
Yeah, so we're gonna come back
there.
down.
The battery, is it okay? There's a little battery thing, and there's a signal. Do you see that? Might have to change the battery one time soon. Let me take a look.
I don't have the glasses on.
Nope, you're doing just fine. A brand new battery.
We're going to be coming down pretty drastically on proof now.
We were 128, weren't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right.
And so now we're going back down to 100.
Well, we rinse this glass out.
Yeah, 127.6 is where we were at. I'm sorry.
So we're going to come back down to 100. Obviously, the Saints Alley line is designed to be much more traditional than what we've just been tasting.
And more available, I hope, as well.
Way more available. Yes, this is massively more available. So the Saints Alley is going to be, on the MGP side, it's going to be 36% and 21% rye. It's going to be anywhere between 4 to 6 years old on those casks. And that's going to make up about 90% of the blend, and then about 10% is going to be some of our bourbon. A lot of times it's Bloody Butcher corn, but sometimes we'll toss another barrel in there.
Thank you for having your bourbon in there as well.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why.
Please.
So the column distillate, and MGP makes wonderful spirits, right? But there's a difference between column and pot still. And we are a pot still distillery here. And what we look for in our whiskeys, we think that the pot still brings more mouthfeel. It leaves a little more body and oil to it. So when we're tasting our base after we put the MGP in, there's two things specifically we want to do. We want to add layers of complexity, because we work really hard at Ironroot to do that, and we want to add mouthfeel. And then everything else has to balance. But those two things, so it's going to depend. Sometimes it doesn't have to be exactly 10%. It has to be when the balance is correct, and so it can
And
vary a little
sometimes
bit.
it's more, and sometimes it's a little bit less, depending on the MGP.
But just in the it's a combination. It gives us proprietary. Nobody can make it the same, and that's always a good thing. But those are the reasons why we like the combination of the two.
Very good. According to my information, MGP's out of stock, at least 8 stock at the moment. Do you have enough, and will this be just a 2-year gig and then it's over, or what's the plan?
So we've got a number. We've got quite a bit on hand.
Yes.
We also got some friends and stuff that have some that we will be
Stocks.
helping replenish. So it's not going away anytime soon.
Good.
We have, although we will be introducing a rye to the line, so it'll be that will be probably become part of the core lineup. Will be these two that are in front of us plus the rye, and then I've got some samples of some of the more limited time offerings that we'll do as well that we can taste.
And that also has your own juice in there as well?
Yes, they all do.
You also make your own rye here.
Mm-hmm.
Have I ever seen a rye from you?
No, we've never really
Okay. So I'm confused. I've never seen a rye, but yet you make rye. Good.
Yeah, there's rye in the
yet.
back. There's and there's also wheat in the back.
Okay.
But yeah,
Ooh.
no, they all will have some of our whiskey. In
See, you didn't show me that when we were back there.
No, we
Actually,
didn't.
I wonder if Jonathan set them outside at the door.
Don't worry. You can look here in a second. When we get to that, we can talk about it.
Yeah.
But,
So the Saint Sally though, it's not. None of these are the big, bold cask strength whiskeys. These are much lower proof offerings, but they are quite a bit of fun too. Especially the limited time ones, obviously, are going to be a little crazier.
Okay. And we have a Herald batch 4.
Yeah, so these are both batch 4.
Okay.
So we have Saint Sally, which is the port and cognac finish, and the Herald, which is going to be the Armagnac finish. So we'll see. They're going to be generally 6 to 9 months finishing. So much lighter than the other one we just had.
let me tell you, we're the Saint Sally. You think, where'd you come up with that name? Actually, Denison is names their alleys downtown because during reconstruction of the main street, you have to use the alleys to get into your businesses. So they're all named, and we have a building downtown, and it is on Saint's Alley.
Yes.
And we looked at this and looked at it, and it was named Saint's Alley because all the churches backed up to it. So we felt the need to name the whiskey Saint's Alley if you're going to put it next to all the churches, right?
And by the way, you almost have exactly the opposite of what Dublin distillers is doing, the Liberties, because they name all theirs after the evil. They have the Devil's Alley. They have Murder Alley. They have all that.
Well, then we go to the Herald, right?
Yeah.
So you think we're religious?
Yes.
No, it was the Herald Democrat newspaper building. And then if you have a Herald, you got to have a heretic. So.
Yes.
That one's more religious.
That was just kind of a play on it, but so but as you watch our brands and things, you'll notice we have not strayed from our roots.
Yeah.
We're still doing the cognacs, the armagnacs. There's a French rum one. There's the some of the other ones that are coming out.
Yeah, those are Tokai one's not French, but it's wine.
Yeah, I know, but it's you guys are straying there, but pretty much.
It's still unusual,
Yeah,
not normal.
Those are the limited ones. There's a little bit out there.
And price-wise, where are we here?
So depending on the state, they can.
Let's say Texas.
So the cheapest places you'll get it'll be about $60 a bottle, but you can see it at some places around $80. So it just depends, 60 to 80. So I think we sell it on site for $55 and $60.
Okay.
But we can't control everything that, once it leaves our distillery, we don't own it.
Especially with a 3-tier system, you do not own it twice.
And we don't own it. And so once it leaves here, we have no control where it goes.
Yeah.
And we have no control over what they charge.
Yeah.
We can ask things, but we don't always.
You cannot demand, you can only ask. Yes. Request kindly.
Exactly. Please, sir.
Please, sir, would you be so kind as no? We could talk hours about, for example, Springbank. So the distillery was 55, and in Germany it was 350. The same bottle. It's just like, yes, we do know that in Germany some of the shops are charging a little bit more than they should. A little bit more? So, Jason, okay. I mean, it's just
Spring
crazy.
break is good.
Yeah, but I mean,
But $350. Yikes.
yeah, euros, not even dollars. That was even more, yeah. For the exact same bottle was 55 in the distillery, so. Oh well, that's life sometimes.
So you know what I say?
Buy bottles and bring them back.
That it's cheaper to buy a ticket to Springbank and fill your suitcase than it is to buy bottles
whiskey in Germany.
Yeah, something that makes that. So it's much cheaper for us to go over and come back, but now we have a problem with customs. That it's no longer part of the European Union. Now, a friend of mine, what he did is actually he was at the Alle, the Speyside, at Alle Officiel, and then he went over to Campbelltown with his camper, and he drove over to Northern Ireland, and the border to Republic of Ireland is tax-free. And then from Republic of Ireland, he was in the European Union, and he just kept on driving over then to France, Germany. And so he didn't have to pay any customs at all. And so I thought that was a very, very smart way of doing it.
And he had a camper. You could put a lot
he had
of whiskey
300
in
bottles with him.
Oh my goodness.
He has a shop. Yeah, but still, yes.
So he made it worth his while.
It was well worth his, it took him an extra 5 days, but it was well worth it.
We brought back, I think, 14 bottles when we came back
Yeah.
from France of
Yeah.
the cognacs and armagnacs. And we get to customs, and Rob is sweating bullets. And the guy looks at me, he pays for the eld, right? And so we go through, and he says, what did you bring back? And Robert says, we brought back some cognac and armagnac. And he looks at him, and he says, well, how many? And I said, not enough. And he said, oh, please just pass.
Yeah. Very good. Yes.
Just get out of here. Just get out of here. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yep, exactly.
I don't want to open your soup. I don't want to count it. Just be off.
Yep.
Because they figured you're not selling it. All you're doing is enjoying it.
Exactly. That was the Armagnac? Or was
No,
it
that was the port and
I was going to say that's the port.
It's a little fruitier overall.
Yeah, much more. Interesting. All right, very, very good.
A soft little 100 proof.
Yeah, that's a soft little 100 proof. So, now what I did not ask, and I'm going to ask now, and you can say no, but I'm going to be in Kentucky with my partners starting on Sunday. Would it be possible to have samples I could take with me so we can try these there as well?
100%.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic if at all possible.
I'll make sure you get some bottles.
But only of the products that we would be able to import.
Right.
All right, so anything that we, for example here, the cast strength, whatever, we're never going to probably have that in the next.
I'll get you a bottle of that just for...
I want to buy a bottle of that for me,
yeah,
but I don't need a sample of that, all right?
We're going to, I thought we were doing tri-barrel for him.
Well, yeah, he's taking that. And you can always sample him on that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We could also talk about a single barrel for Germany as well, yeah? So I would love that. I've done 2 new riffs. There's a third one I'm doing next week.
Don't
And
you
then
love
one.
the people that do, I don't know if I know the people, but I love their whiskey.
Yeah.
they do fun things.
Yeah.
So this is the Armagnac.
Yeah. I actually think I prefer this. Okay, good.
That you're not wrong.
Okay, good. I have at the moment I have 2 port casks maturing in Ireland because I love full maturation port, 8 to 10 years, and one of the best things. But sometimes port and
not your favorite.
Not always.
We
Not
find
port.
that when we're tasting people,
Yeah.
that wine drinkers and people that are not or they're just beginning in
Yeah,
whiskey, that's
absolutely a gateway
that's really
whiskey.
a great place for them to
Totally
start.
agree, yeah.
Bourbon drinkers tend to go with Armagnac.
Yeah.
But I think Nancy Fraley, she was pretty funny. She says she describes cognac as being the fair, fine lady,
Very proper
and
wearing the pearls that you
and-
can take home and meet your mom. And
But Armagnac is
the wild gypsy lover.
exactly.
and that boldness. I always when we're talking, I tell people when I think of cognacs, I think of Scotch. I think that it's a lighter spirit. I think there's so much
more
depth,
delicate.
and there's finesse to it. There's in a good one if you spend time. And I think that's the same. And I think that there's a lot of depth of flavor in Armagnac and boldness, just like bourbon.
Yeah.
And so.
Totally agree. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Yeah.
Alright, Mom, if you would go check to see if that rye is in the hallway, or unless Jonathan drank it all.
No. I don't know. I left them specifically on that tray, and Jonathan came to help. So.
Do you want to move your microphone back to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like something my brother would do.
Yeah.
So the great big one, that had brandy?
It's brandy in it.
Yes.
So that's our...
So it's more than 700 liters, I think.
The things you carried in.
Oh.
From the barrel. Now remember, when we're talking things from the barrel, that they are not finished products.
Yeah, well, also let me see what they are so I can tell.
I have no idea.
There's a bunch of different things.
Do you know why I know these? I put these plastic caps on them. Yeah. That's why I know they're this for.
So this,
yeah, you pulled them. But anyway, when you're doing, the blends, those are things that you put together and they're a finished product. If they're in a bottle and with seal, they're either if they are a single barrel from Ironroot. We believe that a good whiskey tells a story. It should have a good nose. It should have a good taste as it hits the front of your palate. It should give you that covering of that mid palate, and then you should have a nice finish. And that's what a true single barrel is. And if you don't have it, then you're not getting a true single barrel. And a good whiskey, that's why we put them together, because some whiskeys have a great mid palate, some whiskeys have a great nose, some have a finish, and when you can put them together, it's like being the conductor of the orchestra. You pull them all together. These here, nobody's put in a bottle, okay? So these are...
Well, some of these are just cast samples.
These are cast samples, so it might be a sample of...
So this is a sample of the rye we're going to be releasing under St. Sally. So it's rye aged in Takai cask, or finished in Takai.
That's what you put in my glass. No, this was
still
left over.
That was the Armagnac.
Yep.
Now this is just, I think, was a color. So this is a 5-year-old MGP.
Okay.
Oh, that was interesting.
That's a 5-year-old Ironroot.
All right, may I hold these very briefly?
So 5 years in Indiana versus 5 years in Texas.
And they're both in American oak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pot still versus column still.
Yeah, I mean they are.
Yeah, they come off clear from both stills, so it's all cast, the flavor, the color, yeah. So which one was the rye?
This one right here is the
rye.
rye.
All right, may I try?
Please.
Oh. This is your rye?
So this is MGP rye.
I was going to say, this was
MGP rye, a little bit of our rye, and Takai casks.
Okay, I don't know Takaya. Do I get the Takaya? That would be red wine, right? Takaya?
It's a sweet red. It's a sweet red.
Because there is also sweet white, I think, from Takaya.
Okay. Or, this is the sweet white. This is the sweet white cask.
We're getting new ones, and they're due in any day. I'm anxious to see them.
Doing a lot more of it. Just got the rest of the summer to go.
And you might even open it up with a drop of water, because it is sitting there. I really usually prefer the finished.
This is at cask, so that will be dropped. If you would like some more.
Just a little bit of water.
Let's try this first a little bit. Thank you. So I got the base of the MGP, and then on top of that, it was a little different.
Okay. Yeah. There's always in the base of MGP is always Ironroot.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe it's actually underneath the MGP would be the Ironroot here.
That water opens it up really nicely. Okay. It's just.
So I have to do that here.
Don't you think?
Yeah, the fruit just. Yeah. But it's on top of it. You're right. It's like an icing almost.
Yeah.
I love it with a little drop of water. It just kind of actually makes my mouth water. I love whiskeys that do that.
It's great, isn't it? When you just Yeah. Sometimes you have the tannin bombs and it's
and it's so dry.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you get the juiciness on some of them that's just so phenomenal.
Fabulous.
So the Herald is The Herald Democrat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So you know.
So that's our newspaper
Right.
for
the
Sherman.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the
Like the
original,
Derrick up in the
Okay,
World
So it
Series.
was-
Remember that? Okay.
It was
Yeah.
the Denison Herald, the Sherman Democrat, and then they
That's right.
merged and
That's
became the
correct.
Herald Democrat. Mhm.
okay, and so the original, there's two parts of the building. The original was built in 1926. And it was a phenomenal and beautiful building. And then they added on to it in the 60s and put white brick on it.
Yeah. It's very, very. They did very ugly things in the '60s. That
Oh,
building.
they did. Oh my God.
It had like mosaic tile floors and all sorts of really gorgeous.
It was neat. They were not what I would say been as good as stewards as I would like to have seen them with the old building. But then they added the new one. We had a historic person come and they said, you know, now that I said, oh my gosh, did you know the 1960s are historic now because they're over 50 years old? I said, oh no. I
Oh
hear
my
that.
gosh, yeah.
So then they get into all these rules with them, right?
Yep.
And
Listed
so
buildings.
I'm saying, well, you know, if we do this, maybe we would like to look at the building from
All
the
right, one last thing for you.
That's
26,
okay.
and we would add the different
Actually,
windows.
I'm gonna jump the shark.
And the woman says, I don't know if that would be historically correct. And I said, excuse me, I lived in the 60s and we had windows.
Thank you. Yes, exactly.
Oh,
So
my-
I actually had a sample of that. A friend of mine bought the bottle from someone that had a bottle or brought it over from you from.
What proof was it?
I
Not this one.
don't. No, I'm sure
Do you
not
know
this
why?
one. It was 2 years ago.
No.
Oh, then yeah.
Oh, no, you haven't had this.
So this
because-
that's the bigger boy version.
We moved it to 116 proof, and
Yep.
you were only at 107 in those days.
Probably yes. Oh.
Oh.
So this is corn whiskey. Corn
Which
whiskey.
actually was one of your trademarks at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So
The-
most of the stuff you had at the
Hubris.
beginning was yeah.
Hubris is the one that won the best corn whiskey in the world
Yeah,
3 times. But this is Icarus. Icarus is hubris put into port and peat.
Yeah.
So we like to say that hubris got so full of himself he flew too close to the sun and became
Got
Icarus.
singed a little bit. Tastes a
But-
little smoky now.
Mm.
What's fun for me on this is that the peat is not extremely, doesn't present itself extremely on the nose. It's when it gets on your palate, your saliva opens up the peat. And so as you breathe out, as it gets halfway through your palate, the peat comes out with this particular whiskey. And that's why I really, really enjoy it. It's not overpowering, but it's there.
You know what's funny is that I've had more people say I won't drink peat, but it's we call this, it could be a gateway.
Yeah.
This could be an introduction.
Mm.
We've had, so I think Nancy Fraley was the one that put it in with her friends into blind tastings with scotches.
Mhm.
And it was the favorite scotch of the night.
Yeah.
And then I said, I wouldn't want to be around your friends because you guys are a lot high dollar drinkers than we are.
Mm, definitely.
So
yes.
they've had a lot of fun. But this one is the one that won the best corn whiskey in the world. It's the exact.
I've got to do exactly that with my German friends as well.
Well, this is the exact iteration.
100% corn
It
spirit.
is. It is not like it was that. This is what. Well, last year it won, and here it is. This is the exact bottling that won.
Okay.
Wow.
And that was those quarter casks as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
It's a quarter cast, those ones in front.
And it's just a tiny little bit. It doesn't. If you wouldn't have said something, I might not have. I have friends that we were on Isla together for a week, and they just like, oh, Octomore, oh, Ocbig, and so on. And they come back and they take Highland Park. There's no peat. Yeah, it's like, believe me, there is peat in
There's
Highland
definitely
Park.
peat.
Yeah, it's just that here they would never have noticed that there's peat. It's just like there's nothing there, Jason. It's like, believe me, there is a little bit.
It
It's
is,
nice.
but it's not supposed to be over the top.
Yeah. This is-
But these are finishes.
Yeah.
They're
And
not peated grains.
Yeah.
And they're, so you're not, we're not looking to give the effect. As I said, we're adding the finesse
Yep.
and a layer.
Exactly.
That's what
Yep.
it finishes.
At some point, I will do an over the top peated whiskey, but not yet. Not yet.
Robert and I,
Yeah, at some point,
I-
we'll do it.
I could be like an
It's just them
Optimore per-
cleaning
I
the
could
still
really get
afterwards.
into
It's just
Optimore
a
if I could
nightmare.
find it.
I was gonna, and if you could pay for it, I mean, talk about a gold mine. 5-year-old whiskey being sold for 150 euros per bottle.
And you can't find it.
Well, I can find it. I have a few bottles at home as well, but okay, yes, it's at the moment they had in Europe we had the problem that they've been releasing it twice a year now, and there's so many expressions on the market that we can find it. The question is, are you willing to pay 150 plus euros for a 5-year-old whiskey, and sometimes only 3 years old, and it's just like, wow, hey, but Bruichladdich makes a lot of money with it. I mean, good for them. Yeah, better than the 10-year-old Port Charlotte, which is, I like the 10-year-old with 50. Yeah. I was there a couple of weeks ago. I really enjoyed the distillery, the tour, and so on. Mm-hmm. We did a warehouse tasting as well. And what was very, 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 very fascinating was that we had a 17-year-old Bruichladdich. And we actually took home samples, and they stood. In the evening, we had a nice house where we were 6 guys together. I put my samples on the table, and the next morning they were still there. Which said a little bit, because it was like, okay, the Octomore was gone within seconds. The Port Charlotte was even peatier than the Octomore from the taste. Mm-hmm. They were also gone, but it was just like, well, we're in Islay, let's only do peated whiskeys, you know? And so,
You know what's kind of funny is I was in London because my husband, before John retired, he was part of the LME, London Metal Exchange. And so we went over for the conference. Yeah. And so, of course, I was buying some whiskeys to bring back. Mm-hmm. And what happened? I think they were all peated, weren't they?
You did? Yeah, they were all.
They ought to no. They ought to shoot him.
I was like, no. But I was like, man. Yeah, I mean, I get that sometimes a 150-year-old spirit isn't the best spirit. Let's be very, very frank and very honest. That sometimes they're just too old.
Doesn't mean good.
Yes, no. Especially when you're that age.
But, I don't know, peat just seems like, again, I'm sure it could be cool, fun, nuance, but I don't know.
Yeah, usually the older you get, the less peat and the ones you have.
That's true.
So, when we were making Icarus, peat does not play well when we were putting the blends together. I mean, we'd put them together, and one day
plays well. It just
dominates.
It
wax and wanes.
I mean, one day we'd say, "Oh, we've got
perfect," and then you come back.
And the next day you'd say, "Where'd it go?"
Yeah. Okay.
I said, yeah, it's some more, and they think,
whoa,
what?
The more you're sitting at the blending table, tasting all the peated whiskey and playing with it, the less you perceive it.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting there drinking it, and you get all the fruit and all the things behind it, and all the great things. And so,
it's like people are colorblind. You get peat blind, actually. Yeah.
And you're like, okay, well, I could take a little bit more. And you come back the next day, and you're like, what did I do?
Peat monster.
And Rob and I are a little bit more on the peat than John. And Jonathan's putting on brakes, and Rob and I are putting on the gas pedals. And I think the first blend of Icarus, I took months because we just...
There's so much debate going back and forth of what was the right amount of peat for the release. And it's still yearly, it does vary.
Yep.
Based on how much I can twist my brother's arm.
Yeah. Now, how do I recognize it?
So
that would be the C here, or no?
So that's 20. That says 21.
Just 21. So you have 21, you have 22, you have 20. Mm-hmm. Okay.
It only comes out once a year.
All right.
At Father's Day.
All right. I would say this has less peat than the one I had before.
The 22, which I didn't realize that was a 21. The 22, the one that won, is slightly peatier than what this one is.
Okay, yeah. So that was a little bit less peaty.
The same proof, but it's slightly peatier.
Yeah.
You do. It's the same thing with the Saint's Alley. The Saint's Alley, especially on the port and cognac, as far as which one's more dominant, it honestly depends on the cask that we have, on how we put that blend together. That when Jonathan and Chris are sitting there, depending on how expressive the port cask is and what is that, is it a flavor that we're like, oh yeah, big jammy notes that we want to be on top, it'll be more port forward at that time. And other times the cognac is rich and heavy and lengthens the back palate, and you're like, let's push a little bit more of that. So you will see with the Saint's Alley, especially on the port and cognac, it does, from batch to batch, you're going to get whatever they feel at the time are the best expressions of the cast in front of them.
Okay. Could you turn the camera a little bit away for a second? And do you rejuvenate your port casts, or do you reuse them, or how do you do that?
We do not.
Okay.
We do not.
Excellent. So you could have put the camera on them. Sorry. Some people have done that. I know. I was an angel's envy. I was totally.
And okay, when I talk to people when I'm doing the tastings, I said there's something called.
We were bringing in cognac, but I'm bringing in the cask. But I'm not rejuvenating the cask. I'm bringing in because I had to bring in the barrels anyway. So we're like, why not just buy the cognac and play around with the cognac itself? So that's going to be another project.
We've never done
that
yet.
It's not for rejuvenating the cask, but it is for.
Okay.
Why not bring in an actual
But sometimes people don't rejuvenate, they season.
Exactly.
And season is basically, they take the spirit of that they want and they put it in. But the reason, they only leave it a week. Yep. I said, ask them how long they leave it.
They don't, and if they they don't leave it a week, they leave it in there forever.
Yeah.
It doesn't come out.
Exactly.
The whiskey?
No, for example, we bought Pedro Jimenez. So we bought sherry casks, 100-liter casks, and in each and every cask there was 15 liters of Pedro Jimenez still in there.
You know, that doesn't happen to us. Why do you not come in dry to us?
That is not true. We have had some sherry casks come in that had some sherry
only
in them.
Once, though.
But Jonathan dumped it and filled bottles and was drinking it.
That was the best Pedro Jimenez of my entire life.
I was going to say, but the cognacs and Armagnacs don't. Okay, the cognacs and Armagnacs do not.
So we emptied it out. We put it in one of these containers just to keep it. And every time we actually empty them, the Pedro Jimenez, we just put 1 liter in there. We swirl it around. We let it set for a week, and then we pour the whiskey in. We don't ever take any out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we can actually rejuvenate. I call it. You can season the.
Okay, but there's people that don't do it. They never start with an old barrel.
Right.
They'll start with whatever they have. They'll go to the liquor store. They'll buy a sherry.
That's even shadier.
That's what he's talking about. Yes. At least they had it from the same bodega. Yeah.
What you're talking about is you're taking a sherry barrel and you're re-infusing it with the sherry that was already in it.
Yes.
What she's talking about is them just taking an ex-bourbon cask and tossing sherry in there. We're like, it's a sherry barrel.
Yes, it's sherry finished.
And we see a lot of it, and they call them sherry bombs. Yeah. Well, the reason why they're sherry bombs and they're in there a week is
15 liters of sherry.
And because there's 15 liters of sherry, and you don't leave it, because if it goes beyond this, you're pulling raw tannins out. Yep. You can't leave you cannot leave whiskey in a seasoned barrel that has not held old spirit, because it only pulls raw tannins after it.
You can do it, but it just doesn't turn
out. It doesn't taste good.
You got to. So when you say, well, sometimes you get it and it's not so good. Well, maybe you better see.
And sometimes.
And people are not going to season their barrels. You say you get it from the same bodega. Yeah. You know, over here we don't have bodegas to go to get them.
Well, you have to get them Sherry Triangle.
Yes.
But that's what I was telling him. We're bringing in the cognac, and we're bringing in the cask. But we're like, because we had to pay to ship the barrels over, why not just take the cognac as well and then do something fun with the cognac?
But we have the original barrels and the cognac that was in them, Rob. Not something off the shelf.
But it's not going back in the barrel. It's getting blended and doing other things.
Yeah, which is fun.
We're going to do a fun something. Yes, this will be
Some things are fun.
Many things are fun.
We're bringing in cognac, and Denison is celebrating its 150th centennial this year. And to celebrate our relationship with France, we are bringing in cognac. We're going to blend Ironroot, our brandy with it, and we will do a special release of the sister cities for the 150th anniversary in September of cognac and Denison. Cool. And that's coming out.
Sister City blend.
Yeah. And then
will some of those bottles make it back to France?
We'll send it over there to a couple people in there, but we're not gonna we're not doing any marketing with it. But.
So certain people, there's a number of people who want it to live here.
Yes.
And then it will go into the time capsule. Yeah. Because they're creating a time capsule. Oh, wow. And it will be part of the time capsule for the next 50 years.
We're going to test how good these corks really are, is what we're saying.
Yes,
artificial corks.
Yeah.
Stand it up. I said, don't tip it over. Yeah. Maybe we won't put it all the way full.
Yeah, jeez.
And how often have I had Glenfarclas? We open them up and whoops, I only have half of the cork. So especially something that's a little bit older, yeah. Mm-hmm. and also Springbank. A little bit older, anything from the 90s. Whoops.
They just didn't. There's just no density to those corks, and they just snap right off.
Yeah.
Our friend Chris, he is like a surgeon.
Yeah.
He's got
Really?
No. He has a bag, and out comes all the tools,
Okay.
and he will surgically. Is he not good with these?
Remove the cork, and he's got his back.
What did he have one day? It was at no. What do we drink in Germany? What do you drink in Germany with the sugar cube? Absinthe.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, they do that in many countries.
I was going to say yes.
Germany, very much.
If you would have said green, I would have gone immediately.
Okay, wait a minute.
Right.
I just remember the Christmas markets. I happen to be in
the
Germany.
non-traditional Christmas market in
Wait a
Munich.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I got the. No, this is the other side, right? With the sugar
We actually
cube.
have
Drink a lot of
a
absinthe.
rum puff, is what it's called. It's rum that we actually set on fire and with the sugar cube, yes.
It's pretty darn good, whatever it
Yeah,
is.
that is good.
And that's why you go to the Christmas market.
Yes, 80% rum.
In the old days, you used to have wonderful Christmas markets, and they got
a little bit more commercial. Yes. You have to go to Lübeck. Oh, it's also commercial, but okay.
Not as bad as Nuremberg.
Okay, Nuremberg is maybe the. Yeah.
You want to hear a fun story about Nuremberg? Because you're from Germany, right?
Okay, I'm sure there's been many fun stories.
No. Well, I go to the
This actually
Christmas
is a
markets.
fun
This
story.
is a fun story.
Yes. Don't forget
so,
the tribunal was there after the Nazi war crimes. But other than that, I hope there's some fun stories.
That's the less fun story about Nuremberg.
Okay,
This one's actually
this
a fun
is
story.
fun. So, you've got the Christmas markets down here, and then you have you wind up the street.
The old cities.
And we did a tour of the ice houses underneath the city, and we came up, and I have actual pictures of a still that is the Colt still there.
It's at a brewery.
It's a brewery, right?
Okay.
Well,
Because they'll make beer.
Okay,
but
that's
they
the
make
name of the
the
place.
brews.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
and so we have a friend. I guess he's a friend. He was had acquaintance from Franconia who had actually learned how to distill over or
She
or
says
brew.
Franconia because the brewery he started in Texas is called
Okay,
Franconia.
okay.
I was very impressed by using the word Franconia correctly.
Thank you.
Very nice. Yes.
So anyway, so he
Not
brings up
Bavaria, Franconia.
his mentor,
Yes.
and his mentor is here, and we're talking, and I'm telling the story. I was telling of the still, and I'm telling him the story of having
all
been
these
there,
Christmas markets and
and all of a sudden he's saying, "That's my brewery." Or distillery.
Yeah.
And then he says, and he says, like, no, you've never been there. So Jonathan brings back, and when
No, you said that story wrong right there. You stopped. You failed.
You failed. Oh no.
I
Be
didn't
generous.
I am not Jonathan. I am Robert. And
No, but
I
Jonathan.
went. No.
Okay, Robert, remember.
I went and got it because I was there with you and went to the brewery and distillery and recognized the card of the Ayers Distillery when he handed it to me.
Yeah.
And I told you, he handed me the card and I was like, this is the distillery we went to. And we went back, we have barrel number 2, a bottle of that still had some of their malt from barrel number 2.
Yeah, what do they call it?
Single malt.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, so we bring it out to him, and he
We also
holds
had
it
some
up.
beer brands from them.
Beer
Yes,
brands.
it is IS.
Yes.
Yes.
So he brings it out, and here he is
It was his
standing
second
in our
barrel of
distillery, looking at a bottle that was his second. And he couldn't believe it that we could put that Jonathan could put it
So
together.
they're like, yeah,
or
we've
Robert.
been there. And he's like, yeah, sure, you've been there.
Yes.
And they're like, no, really.
Well, I had pictures because then I had pictures
I haven't been there myself, but one of my best friends
I had
actually.
pictures of the Colt still, and I would say, see, and it's the same still that we have
We
here,
have it,
whatever.
exactly.
And
Yeah, Robert Bean,
it's
that
a
guy.
small world, isn't
Thank
it?
you. It is a very small world. The distilling world is not that large. I mean, we do have over 300 different whiskey distilling companies in Germany, but most of them produce less than 10 barrels a year. So you actually have just maybe 20, 30 real whiskey distilleries, and the rest are just, they make schnapps. And
yes,
then
by
1 or
the
2
by
years,
the meter.
Yeah, exactly. But then 1 or 2 weeks a year they make whiskey. And it's like, okay, what is the whiskey? Well, whiskey is then, schnapps and wood for 3 years.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's not the same.
I do
that's the
have
problem,
the meter of schnapps.
But he actually brought with him.
Yeah, you did that. Okay. Were you at Oktoberfest?
We actually were
I
there for.
still
Well,
have-
no, because we were in there November.
See,
We were
the
at there
prune
Thanksgiving, so it
Yeah.
was after.
I have the Prune people, and I have phenomenal smokers.
Oh.
The smokers from Germany. I even have one. There was a guy, and he had one, and it was hand carved.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at him, and I
That's
offered
actually
it.
from
He
the
says,
eastern part of Germany,
he says,
where we
my
have the
mother,
smokers.
my wife will kill me if I do this. And he actually sold it to me, and I have it.
That's good.
That's how I sell all our bottles of whiskey too.
No.
My mom would kill me if I sold you this bottle.
But hey, you're someone special.
But no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And then I do have a lot of smokers.
Yeah.
I do love the German smokers and the prune people.
She's a big fan.
And maybe the pyramid as well for Christmas?
Of course I do.
Of course you do. Wow.
So, and the candles so we can burn everything down.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. And with a little...
Do you know? Okay.
Very hard.
Okay. I meant. Okay.
She's
I
lights
was going to
on.
laugh. We are there, and
I'm not going to prop up this
and
part,
they have
don't
good,
worry.
and they're going to have wines, right?
Yeah, we have some
And
good wines.
so at one of the Christmas markets, they have where they have the blown glass,
Yes.
and inside they have it so it's the grapes,
Yeah.
so that you can put the red wine in the center and the white side.
Yeah.
So now this thing is
Filled
Exactly.
with blue vine.
Yeah,
no,
exactly, yeah.
It's probably whatever.
Mulled wine
I'm going
for
to
you,
say that
yes.
it's 3 feet. You're
Yeah,
probably
could
going to
be.
say that it's a meter.
I'm going to say
But it
exactly.
fit exactly
They're
my
almost the same.
suitcase,
Wow, lucky you. Yeah.
and I
And
still have
I
it.
was going to say it didn't break.
It did not break. I
oh,
still
wow.
have it.
Oh. How many times have you been to Germany? 3, 4, 5, more?
I mean,
5 or
I
6,
did
okay.
them all.
Okay,
We did
wow.
I did Christmas markets there for years.
Wow.
In Nuremberg. What I loved, I loved the first ones because they were so authentic.
Yes.
And I have all the cookies that are hand painted
Yeah.
that I hang on my Christmas tree every year.
Yeah.
And
The
they
bugs
last.
are slowly eating them.
Don't
No, they're
worry.
not. They didn't eat those. And
Oh.
but as we went
She's like
later,
a
they
remake
became
when
more
we were
Chinese.
kids.
I'm sorry.
She really does. She's not joking.
I'm not
She's
joking.
obsessed. I remember the first time she came back, she planted 2 different pickles in the tree because it was tradition now.
Oh,
We had to
yes.
find a pickle.
But you'll never see a pickle in Germany.
Yeah.
I
We
had.
don't have pickles in Germany on our tree, but if you Google German pickle Christmas tree
But-
tradition,
but-
you'll learn
but-
that it's an
but- okay.
American tradition.
So when Robert
If you
came
brought
with
them
me,
in Germany,
I
and brought
brought.
them
I
back.
know.
Okay, so I wanted to go, and his dad was working and wouldn't go to Germany with me.
Yeah.
Rob was in law school, and I wanted to go, and I had to have somebody go with me because everybody else had their husbands go.
Yeah.
So I talked to Robert.
Someone has
into-
to get on this one.
Yeah. So I
Keep an eye
talked to
on it,
Robert
yeah.
into going with me, with my
Yes.
friends.
I was so jet lagged the entire trip.
He was,
Oh.
yeah, he was
I was
not
a
good.
Yeah, going over.
I don't know how
But
he's still
Robert-
awake. He's
but
gone
Robert and
36
I
hours.
arrived
Buzzkill the
early,
entire time
and we got on the
trip.
train
It
in
hit
Munich,
8:30 and I
and
was
we went because I read about one of the oldest monasteries that had it, and we got on the train, and it started with an A or
The
a Z.
dunkel. Yeah.
And we got up there, and they had
Pork knuckle and dunkel.
to die for, the best I've ever. I mean, we bought the.
She was not a beer drinker, and
Yeah.
she bought 2 growler full of the dunkel.
Yeah.
And we drank it at the,
Every night.
at the
Yeah, every
hotel
night.
every night.
Yeah.
when we were there, but we went to
Hence
this
why I fell
monastery.
asleep at 8:30.
Yeah, I was
every
going
night.
to say, I think that didn't help your jet lag at all.
So we did that, and then we went out to, of course, you had to go
Jet lag
to
never
the
affects her, though. She's got
and
more
you had to
energy
go
than
to
anybody.
Over.
I think she
Okay,
does.
wait a minute. Is it Oberoverga?
Okay, Awagao, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not too bad.
Yeah, no, that was
Where they have
very,
all the
very good,
beautiful
yes.
carvings. But then later on, we did one that did the Cologne and.
You went down the Rhine River with the
But when I
castles,
was
I'm
in
sure.
Dusseldorf,
Dusseldorf, yeah.
I actually flew to
Neuschwanstein.
Dusseldorf, stayed there because
Yes.
John is in the metals business, and
Okay.
and so he was doing business there,
Mhm.
and so,
Not at
that
this
was
point,
that was
though.
not a Christmas. That was not a Christmas market. That was business,
That was just-
and that meant I
that was
had free
business
time
trip.
when
Yeah,
he
it
was
was business
he was
trip,
doing
yeah.
business, and I was
Drinking.
going everywhere. No, you were.
And hopefully you went down to Mosul a little bit. Down
That's
the,
where
the,
Mosul is, and
Oh,
that
that
is
little river with the
okay.
valley. Oh,
Yes,
it's so
and that's exactly where I did all that shopping.
Yep. Beautiful, beautiful.
I love
Yeah.
Germany.
Yeah, I do too.
And then what else? There's another, when we were over there, and we went over.
You went to Cologne as well, you mentioned.
She didn't drink any of the beer in Cologne.
No,
though,
but it wasn't
okay.
it wasn't part of the Rhine River. There was another.
Okay, Mosel, Rheinhessen,
No, a big town, a major.
Big town. Frankfurt, no.
Did you go to Austria?
Oh, I've been to Austria a number of times.
Well,
Okay,
no,
you
but
probably,
what a
where the
trip
two
would be.
rivers come together, it's called Koblenz. Maybe it was there. It's called the Deutsche Eck, so the German Triangle.
That we did
It's
that
like
on the
Three
river,
Rivers Stadium
but
in
yeah,
Pittsburgh.
but we also somebody had a exchange student that stayed with them, and we went someplace else. But anyway, I love the German. German
Bingen
markets.
is also some place of the mines. Yeah.
But it was. How many years did I go there?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And,
Maybe you might have to come to Whiskey Show one day. If we have
You could
all
go
your
on
products
his
there, you
show.
have to come to one of our shows.
I
Love that.
Could be a guest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
I'm on this, and then I'm
Yeah.
off to
Yes.
Scotland.
Yes.
Yes, and then you're off to Scotland, exactly.
I mean, you can go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
That's right.
I ain't
But
stopping you.
yeah, I used to go every single year before we started the distillery.
Okay.
And
then
then
once we
I
started
chained her to the still, and she
I
never
will tell
left.
you,
You
the
changed her.
the last time I was in Germany
Yeah, it was.
the Cologne.
Yeah.
And when we did the Rhine,
Right,
and
mhm.
we did river cruises.
Yes.
So,
Those are so beautiful.
So
yeah.
we did that, and John did not come with me. I went with my friends.
Okay.
So I was really not happy
She
with
was
him because I was
partying.
by myself with all my friends.
Mhm.
Because he said that he wanted to come because you're still arrived down here. And he came when the still arrived here, and you guys were putting it up. And he,
So
and
we were
he-
working and you were partying, is what I just heard.
Yes.
What? No.
The mom would never do that.
No, she's sacrificed more than any person ever should to help her kids start a business,
Yeah.
which was moving away from her husband for 4 years and taking the entire business on her back and carrying it for 4 years.
Yeah.
balancing out. We made a rule that
Some people
that
call it balance. I talk about it crushing your soul a little bit, but yeah.
but we had a rule that two people had to be at the distillery,
Right.
but one can't come at 3
So Marcia was
and one
always
at 8.
here.
So I was always here. So I'm always. I mean, I started.
When I say Marcia is the heart and soul of the distillery, like it's not a joke. She really
Is. And still is.
yeah. This place wouldn't run without her.
Yep.
It wouldn't have survived without you.
But I wouldn't know how
Sacrificing
to
your awesome trips to Germany.
Well, making whiskey doesn't mean you've sold the whiskey, and making whiskey doesn't mean you have the barrels to put it into. It doesn't mean you have the bottles to put it into. It doesn't mean that you actually have all the other things that are important for administration and bookkeeping and so on. I think that's something you've done a lot there.
Yeah, I give her a hard time all the time. I'm saying this entire
But
conversation I've been giving her a hard time.
I did start at 4 a.m. yesterday with you.
Yeah.
It's not yesterday. That was this morning.
That was this morning, by the way. Yes.
It's almost yesterday.
It's almost.
All right, so we're going to stop now. Thank you very much.
Yeah.